AITA for ditching babysitting for Hawaii. Letting my sister's kids ruin her wedding? My name is Sophia, and I am 27 years old. When my sister Brooke dropped her 2 sons off at my door on a Thursday night without asking, just announcing, "I will pick them up at midnight," I felt the same sting I felt when I was 12. That was when Dad told me there was no budget for my music lessons, but on the same day, he bought Brooke a very expensive dress for her dance class. It was always like that. Brooke was the sensitive one who needed more, and I was the responsible one who had to give in. But that night, as my nephews tried to damage my work laptop, something inside me, something from that 12-year-old girl finally said, "Enough is enough." Enough! I shouted, snatching my computer away. The 2 of them are sitting in opposite corners right now. If you cannot behave, I will not pay my share of the internet bill next month. Is that clear? Their eyes widened in horror at the threat. Suddenly, they were perfectly capable of following instructions. They stayed silent in their corners, and after 15 minutes, I let them put on a movie. They behaved for the rest of the night, and I managed to finish my work. When Brooke finally came to pick them up at 1 in the morning, not midnight, they started complaining immediately. "Aunt Sophia was mean to us," said Logan. "She made us sit in the corners. She said she would not pay her share of the internet," Jackson added, his voice trembling. Brooke's face darkened. "What did you do to my children?" "They were fighting over my laptop," I explained, exhausted. "I needed to work. How dare you discipline my kids?" "You have no right," she hissed. "Do you think that just because you pay a few bills you can mistreat them? Should I call the police?" I was stunned. Mistreatment? Brooke, they were out of control. "I do not want to hear it. Come on, kids, we are leaving," she snapped, slamming the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. My phone rang 20 minutes later. It was Mom. "Sophia, how could you treat your nephews like that? After everything your sister has been through. I raised you better than that." I tried to explain, but she would not listen. As I lay in bed that night, I wondered when I had become the family villain simply for having boundaries. Meanwhile, Brooke spent money on new clothes and salon appointments while I counted every dollar. But when I pointed it out, my parents acted as if I were being petty. Little did I know that after that Thursday fight, things were about to get much worse. 3 days later, Brooke called me with exciting news. She had met someone named Derek in her yoga class. He was divorced, worked in finance, and was totally handsome. I was genuinely happy for her. Maybe having someone new in her life would take some of the pressure off me. Over the next 2 months, Brooke's relationship with Derek became the center of her universe. She talked about him constantly, showed me pictures, and recounted every conversation. First, I was happy for her. She deserved to be happy after losing Brian. But my joy faded when I realized what her new relationship meant for me. "Can you watch the kids tonight? Derek is taking me to that new Italian place," she asked on a Tuesday afternoon. It was the 3rd time that week she had asked me to watch them. "I do not know, Brooke. I have a big presentation tomorrow. I need to prepare." "Please," she begged. "It will only be a few hours. They will be good, I promise." They were never good, but I agreed. Because saying no to Brooke meant enduring guilt trips from her and my parents. It became a pattern. Brooke would drop the kids off with little notice, promising to be back early, and then return hours later than planned. The kids' behavior worsened with each visit. They seemed angry about being left with me so their mom could go on dates, and they took it out on me in my apartment. One night they spilled grape juice on my white couch. Another time they broke a ceramic bowl my grandmother had given me. The building manager had already warned me about the noise. After 8 weeks of this routine, I was mentally and physically exhausted. My work was suffering, my apartment was always a mess, and I had no social life of my own. Something had to change. Sunday dinner at my parents' house seemed like a good opportunity to address the situation. Brooke was in an excellent mood. She had just returned from a weekend getaway with Derek. The kids were running around the yard as we sat at the patio table. "Brooke," I said, choosing my words carefully. "I am glad things are going so well with Derek, but I need to talk about the babysitting." My sister's smile faded. "What about it?" "It has become very frequent, and it is almost always on short notice. I also work full-time and need some evenings to myself. Maybe we could set a schedule or find another sitter for some nights. Brooke's face hardened. You are just being selfish. Do you not want to spend time with your own nephews? That is not what I said. Are you jealous? She stood up, pointing a finger at me. Jealous that I found someone and you are still single. That is what this is all about. I looked at my parents, hoping they would intervene. Instead, Mom nodded. Sophia, your sister finally has a chance at happiness again. Can you not put your own needs aside for once? Dad crossed his arms. Family helps family. Period. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. Are you serious? I have been helping for years. I pay half her rent, part of her bills, and I have watched the kids constantly. I just need a little balance. Balance, Brooke scoffed. Try raising 2 kids alone. Oh, right, you cannot even manage to get a date. That was the last straw. I stood up. I am done. Find someone else to be your free babysitter. I quit. I walked out, ignoring Brooke's shouts and my mother's calls for me to come back. For the first time in years, despite the rage burning in my chest, I felt a weight lift off me. 2 days later, Brooke showed up at my door with the kids. I have a date with Derek. It is important. No, I said simply, blocking the entryway. I told you I am done babysitting. Her face twisted with rage. You cannot be serious. The kids are already here. Where are they supposed to go? That is for you to figure out, I replied, my voice cold. You are their mother. She tried to push past me, but I held my ground. You are trying to ruin my relationship. Do you want me to be alone forever like you? I locked the door. I could hear her pounding and shouting, but I turned up the volume on my TV and ignored her. Eventually, she left. The calls started that evening. First Brooke, then Mom, then Dad. I let them all go to voicemail. My mother's message was particularly harsh. You are cutting yourself off from this family, Sophia. Be prepared for the consequences. Despite our fight, I kept sending money for Brooke's rent and bills. It felt like the last thread connecting me to my family, and I was not ready to cut it, even though it strained my budget. Weeks passed and the calls and texts slowly trickled away. I focused on work, started a yoga class, and went on a couple of dates. For the first time in years, I was putting myself first. Then, after almost 3 months of silence, my phone lit up with a text from Mom. Family dinner tomorrow at Giovanni's, 7 in the evening. Brooke has news. Please come. I hesitated, but curiosity won. Maybe enough time had passed for things to cool down. Maybe Brooke was ready to apologize. I replied with a simple okay, and spent the next day anxious about what awaited me. When I arrived at the restaurant, everyone was already seated. Mom, Dad, Brooke, Logan, and Jackson running between the tables, and a tall, dark-haired man I assumed was Derek. He stood and extended his hand as I approached. You must be Sophia. I have heard a lot about you, he said with a warm smile. I doubted what he had heard was positive, but I smiled back. Nice to meet you, Derek. Dinner started pleasantly enough. Derek seemed normal. He even shot the boys disapproving looks when they misbehaved. Brooke was practically glowing, holding Derek's hand across the table. Maybe things really had changed. After we ordered our food, Brooke cleared her throat dramatically and took Derek's hand. I have something important to share with everyone, she announced, her voice vibrating with excitement. Derek and I are getting married. My parents burst into cheers. Dad clapped Derek on the back while Mom dabbed at her eyes. Congratulations, I said, genuinely happy for her. When is the big day? In 4 months, Derek answered. We found a perfect venue because of a cancellation. That is wonderful news, I said. I am so happy for you both. Brooke's smile suddenly tightened. There is something else you should know, Sophia, she said, her tone making my stomach clench. The wedding will be small, just family. She paused, looking directly at me. And I have decided not to invite you. The table fell silent. Felt like I had been slapped. What? I finally managed to say. You heard me, she said, her voice icy. This wedding is for people who act like family. You made it clear where you stand when you refused to help with my kids. I looked at my parents, expecting them to defend me. Mom stared down at her plate. Dad just shook his head. Your sister is right, Sophia. You brought this on yourself. I could not believe what I was hearing. 3 years of financial support, countless hours of babysitting, and all the emotional labor meant nothing because I had finally set one boundary. I did not say another word. I picked up my purse, left some cash for my meal and walked out. No one called after me. That night I made a decision. I blocked their numbers and removed them from my social media. But I could not bring myself to immediately stop the automatic transfer that paid Brooke's rent. Life went on. I threw myself into my work, made new friends in my yoga class, and even started dating a guy named Alex, who worked at the coffee shop near my office. I was building a life that did not revolve around my sister's needs, and it felt good. Occasionally, I would check Brooke's social media. She posted regular updates on the wedding preparations, dress fittings, cake tastings, photos of the venue. Not once did she or my parents reach out to me. For months passed quickly. The wedding was scheduled for a Saturday, and I was planning a quiet weekend at home with takeout and a streaming series. Alex had invited me to a concert, but I declined. As much as I tried to pretend otherwise, I knew I would be thinking about the wedding all day. On Friday afternoon, I was making dinner when there was a knock at my door. I looked through the peephole. To my surprise, Brooke was standing in the hall. I hesitated before opening it. "Brooke, what are you doing here?" She pushed past me uninvited. "We need to talk," she said, with dark circles under her eyes and her hair in a messy ponytail, a far cry from her usual perfect hairstyle. "I need you to watch the kids during the wedding tomorrow." I stared at her, sure I had misheard. "You want me to babysit tomorrow when you specifically uninvited me from your wedding?" "Look, they cannot be at the ceremony. They will ruin everything." Logan is in a phase where he interrupts constantly, and Jackson broke a vase at the venue the last time we were there. The manager already warned us. Then hire a babysitter. I tried. 2 different ones canceled, but that was because I contacted them at the last minute. Besides, you are family. You should help. I let out a disbelieving laugh. "Brooke, you literally told me I was not family enough to attend your wedding. You cannot have it both ways." I was upset, okay? But this is important. If you do not help me, I will have to bring them to the wedding, and they will make a scene. "That sounds like a parenting problem," I said calmly. "Not a Sophia problem." Her face hardened. "Fine. If you will not do it for me, do it because Mom and Dad want you to. They will be very disappointed if you refuse. Mom and Dad have not spoken to me in 4 months. They did not even call me on my birthday. If you do not agree, I will tell them again how selfish you are being. You know they will take my side." She smirked, confident in her leverage. I felt the familiar rage rise in my chest, but this time I contained it. Instead, I forced a neutral expression. "What time should I expect them?" I asked. Brooke's face lit up with victory. "The ceremony starts at 11 in the morning, so I will drop them off around 9:30. We should be done with everything by 8 in the evening. I will text you if we are running late." "Sure," I said flatly. She stood up, suddenly cheerful. "I knew you would not let me down, sis. This means so much to me." After she left, I wasted no time. I called my boss, Kevin, and requested emergency vacation time. I had almost 3 weeks accumulated from the previous year. When he approved, I hung up and immediately opened my laptop. Within an hour, I had booked a 10-day stay at an oceanfront hotel in Maui with a flight leaving at 6 in the morning the next day. I had always wanted to go but had never been able to afford it, partly because I was too busy supporting Brooke. This time, I used savings I had been putting away for a vacation and frequent flyer points. I also took advantage of an incredible last-minute deal. I packed quickly and set an alarm for 3 in the morning to catch a taxi to the airport. As I zipped up my suitcase, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Guilt. I had been conditioned my entire life to put Brooke's needs first. But underneath it, there was something else. Excitement, freedom, and a delicious sense of finally standing up for myself. I slept fitfully that night, half expecting Brooke to somehow sniff out my plan and show up to stop me. But my alarm went off without incident, and by sunrise I was on my flight from Chicago to Maui, my phone in airplane mode. The flight attendant offered me a glass of sparkling wine as we reached cruising altitude. "Celebrating something?" she asked with a smile. I took a sip and looked out the window at the clouds below. "Yes," I said. My independence. The beaches of Maui were everything I had dreamed of. The hotel was on a pristine beach with turquoise water and soft, white sand. I spent my first day alternating between swimming, napping in a hammock, and drinking colorful cocktails brought to me by an attentive staff. For the first time in years, I felt completely relaxed. I left my phone off all day, knowing what would be waiting for me when I turned it on. Brooke would have arrived at my apartment around 9:30 in the morning with Logan and Jackson, probably already dressed in their little suits. She would have knocked, then pounded, then called over and over. By 10, she would have been frantic. By 10:30, furious. The next morning, curiosity got the better of me. I ordered room service, and as I sipped my coffee on the ocean view balcony, I turned on my phone. It exploded instantly with notifications. 12 missed calls from Brooke, 8 from Mom, 5 from Dad, and dozens of text messages, each more desperate or angry than the last. From Brooke at 9:45 in the morning. Where are you? We have been knocking for 15 minutes. From Brooke at 10:03 in the morning. This is not funny, Sophia. I am going to be late. From Brooke at 10:37 in the morning. I cannot believe you are doing this to me on my wedding day. From Mom at 11:22 in the morning. Your sister is in tears. Is this really how you want things to be? From Brooke at 12:15 in the afternoon. You have completely ruined my wedding. The kids are out of control and Derek's family thinks I am a terrible mother. From Dad at 2:30 in the afternoon. This is beyond disappointing, Sophia. You have gone too far this time. The last message from Brooke came at 8:46 in the evening. You have crossed every line. Do not bother trying to contact us again. You are no longer part of this family. I should have felt devastated, but instead I felt strangely liberated. They had cut me off. The decision was out of my hands. I then opened my banking app and canceled the recurring transfer for Brooke's rent. From now on, her brand new husband could support her. I turned off my phone and went for a swim in the ocean. An hour later, I was lying on the beach when my cousin Courtney called. I almost did not answer, but Courtney had always been kind to me. She had been living abroad for the past few years and was not involved in the family drama. Sophia, are you okay? I heard there was drama at the wedding. I got some angry texts. Sounds like the kids were a handful. That is an understatement, I replied, holding back a smile. Brooke had to bring them because you were not there to watch them. Your parents tried to keep an eye on them during the ceremony, but they could not handle them. Logan knocked over a floral arrangement during the vows, and Jackson kept asking loudly when they could have cake. I could not help but let out a disbelieving laugh. At the reception, Courtney continued, they were running around the tables screaming. The worst part was when they decided to taste the cake before it was cut. They stuck their hands in it and started a food fight. Derek's mom looked like she was going to faint, and his aunt, the strict one, commented something like, maybe they rushed into this marriage. You could have heard a pin drop. Brooke blames you for everything. Of course, I said. It could not possibly be that her children need discipline, or that she should have hired a sitter weeks in advance instead of just assuming I would do it. Exactly. Anyway, I just wanted to make sure you are okay, and I honestly think you did the right thing. They have been taking advantage of you for years. Thanks, Courtney, I said sincerely. After talking to her, I pushed thoughts of my family aside and enjoyed my vacation to the fullest. I went snorkeling with sea turtles. I took a scenic helicopter flight over the islands and the waterfalls. I signed up for a hula class and a Hawaiian cooking class and ate fresh pineapple every day. By the time I returned home, I was tanned, rested, and more at peace than I had been in years. There were no new messages from my family. I had not expected any, but the finality of the silence still stung a little. 3 weeks passed. I dedicated myself to my work, and my boss noticed the difference in my energy and focus. He called me into his office on a Friday afternoon. Sophia, I have been impressed with your performance lately, Kevin said. The Tolson account is our most profitable this quarter, and your marketing strategy for the Wilson project was brilliant. I want to offer you a promotion to senior marketing strategist. I was stunned. Thank you, Kevin. I do not know what to say. Say yes. It comes with a 15% raise in your own office. You have earned it. I accepted. With the new salary, I could finally afford a better apartment. I found a one-bedroom in a newer building with a gym and a rooftop garden. Moving day was bittersweet. I was excited about my new place, but I could not help but think about how my family was not there to celebrate with me on a rainy Tuesday night. As I was unpacking the last of the kitchen boxes, Courtney called again. "Hey cuz," I answered. "How are you?" "Good, but I have some family gossip. Thought you would want to know. What is going on with Brooke? Is she okay?" I asked. Despite everything, I still cared. Physically, yes. Emotionally, not so much. She and Derek are fighting all the time, mostly about the kids. He was not prepared for how challenging they are. And Brooke is not doing anything to address their behavior. She has been dumping them on your parents almost every weekend so she and Derek can have alone time to work on their marriage. I shook my head. That does not solve the real problem. The kids need consistent boundaries, not to be passed around like packages. Exactly. Your mom is exhausted, and your dad hurt his back trying to stop Jackson from climbing a bookshelf last week. It is all a mess. Part of me felt vindicated, but mostly I just felt sad for Logan and Jackson. None of this was their fault. They were acting out because the adults in their lives were not giving them the structure they needed. I hope they figure it out, I said. For the kids' sake. Do you ever think about reconciling with them? Courtney asked carefully. I considered it. I do not know. They would have to acknowledge how they treated me, and I am not sure they are capable of that. But I miss the family we could have been. You know? I get it. For what it is worth, I think you did the right thing. Sometimes you have to put yourself first. After we hung up, I made a cup of tea and sat on my new balcony, looking at the city lights. I thought about my sister and my parents, about the nephews I likely would not see grow up. There was sadness but not regret. I had spent years being the family doormat, giving everything and getting nothing in return. Breaking away had been necessary for my well-being. Maybe one day they would realize what they had lost. Maybe they would reach out with genuine remorse. Until then, I would keep building my life on my own terms. I had a job I loved, a bright new home, friends who respected me, and most importantly, I had myself stronger and more confident than ever before. I raised my teacup in a silent toast to the future. Whatever it brought, I was ready to face it on my own terms. Comment. Hey everyone, this story really touched me deeply, and I hope it resonated with you too. I've learned that protecting your peace is never selfish. Setting clear boundaries shows you value yourself. You deserve respect in every relationship, even with family. Sometimes the healthiest choice is stepping back to focus on your own well-being. Healing takes time, and that's perfectly okay. Taking responsibility for your own happiness is one of the most empowering things you can do. I encourage you to reflect on where you might need to set stronger boundaries in your life. Remember that true kindness includes being kind to your own heart. Let's keep building lives full of self-respect and inner peace. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.